Our next guest is the director of a provocative new documentary that follows her personal quest to understand the nature of altruism when she embarks on a journey to donate one of her kidneys to a total stranger. The film is called Confessions of a Good Samaritan and is sure to be the buzz at this year's festival. Please welcome director Penny Lane to the South by Southwest studio. Hello.
I'm clapping for myself now.
I like how you clap for yourself. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. It's a fantastic documentary. It's fascinating, the nature of altruism. You are a live donor.
Yeah.
You gave one of your kidneys to a complete stranger. Why?
Well, it's so funny because answering the question why is hard for me. It seems like, why wouldn't you? I mean, I heard about the idea that you could give a kidney to someone in need, and I knew that there were at least 100,000 people sitting on a list, like sort of slowly dying on dialysis. I mean, dialysis will keep you alive, but it's not like a great way to live a long life. And it's really constricting of your life when you're on it. And I didn't know this, but you can live really a good life with one kidney. It's a pretty relatively safe procedure. And so when I heard about it, I was like, well, of course I would do that. Why wouldn't anyone do that? But I came to understand pretty quickly that most people don't have that reaction.
You're an outlier.
I'm an outlier.
Yeah.
So the question of the film is, why is this moral decision such a no-brainer to the people who make it, the very small number of people who make this decision every year, and like such a mystery to everyone else? And that's what I set out to explore.
And you explore the nature of altruism, why some people do it, why you did it, questioning yourself and your intentions, right? And it's something important because, and it's something personal for me, as I shared with you right before you sat down. My daughter, 6-year-old Nuseba, is the recipient of a liver from originally an anonymous liver donor. She had stage 4 cancer, almost didn't make it, and an anonymous donor stepped up, gave a piece of the liver, and now she's alive, 6 years old, diva, earrings, you know how it goes. But the question was like, why would this guy, Sean Zahir, we now know him, step up and do it?
Right.
And other people who matched with her, who were healthy, who had money, said, nah.
Yeah, it's a big question, and I don't really have an answer. I mean, I think it's just a matter of understanding like the intense diversity of the human psychology. Like, different people have very different mental models of the world. And I think for some people, perhaps the fear of surgery is just very overwhelming, and it seems like a bigger burden than for someone else. And then also I think that for some people, they feel a sense of like moral revulsion almost. Like,
revulsion?
Yeah, the idea that you'd cut something out of my body and put it in a stranger's body, it makes them feel kind of icky. So I think they don't donate for that reason, but I think people have a lot of reasons.
But I think ignorance is, having gone through it. You've gone through it, I've gone through it, right? You were the donor, and I've been, I guess, the recipient of a generosity of a Good Samaritan. What we learned through the process, and my wife's a doctor, and I'm educated, I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I had no idea the liver grows back.
It's amazing.
Like, they're like, your daughter needs a full liver transplant. I'm like, what person will give a full piece of their liver, like their whole liver? And the doctor's like, whoa, no.
We just take a piece.
We just take a piece. But even when you said about the kidney, right? Something that you and I know, you know what? We got 2.
Yeah.
You can live fine with 1.
Yeah.
Most people have no idea.
No.
So the ignorance
here. Seems wrong. It seems like, well, God gave us 2. We must need 2, But for whatever reason, He gave us an extra one. I don't know why.
But it's one of those situations.
Maybe to give us a chance to be generous to others.
Like you. But like, do you think one of those situations is when I talked to the doctors involved with this, they said, if people only knew, if they only knew, do you think ignorance is really at the root of the fact that there's such a demand?
Yeah.
And there's 8 billion of us. The supply should be there, but people don't step up.
I think it's mostly ignorance. I think it's mostly that, but I don't know. I mean, I'm very curious to find out what happens in 10 years. Like, will this idea of altruistic donation become so popular that we'll be able to solve the organ crisis that way? I don't know. I don't know if there's enough people who are willing to do it, but I certainly want to be part of the mission of like getting the word out that you can.
Yeah,
and it's possible.
And the story, you're doing the story through your documentary film. I used, my platform. And what I found out, the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
And specifically not just doing statistics, but when you say, here I am, I'm Penny. I gave a kidney to someone who's alive now.
And I'm sitting here right now, I'm okay.
I'm okay. That connection was so profound because it inspires other people to be like, I had no idea. And do you think that's one of the hopes here, that maybe, as you explore this question, which still, you don't have the answer, but you explore in the doc, that maybe some people might come away with it and say, you know what? I don't need both.
100%. I mean, I haven't, even before the film was done, I knew people who like were inspired to donate because I mentioned it on Facebook. So I do think like getting the word out about it is a huge motivating factor for me. You don't need everyone to do it, you know? You just need a small number of people who think, you know, maybe I'm healthy enough, maybe I'm like tough enough, maybe I'm brave enough to like go through this experience for someone else, and I think you could make a really big difference.
Can I ask you, your kidney, you gave it to a stranger.
Yeah, my left kidney.
I mean, now I'll make it even more personal. Just right before we came, my wife and I had this conversation, a family friend of ours. She said, listen, my mom needs a kidney. And my wife said, listen, I think you match. And I sat there and I thought about it. I'm like, I mean, if no one else steps up, but then I thought, well, what about her kids? And then one of the kids said the following: I wanna, but I also, you know, I like being outdoorsy. And we're like, what the? If the son isn't, you know, then you start thinking like, man, if the son's not doing it, if the daughter's not doing it, but I couldn't help it. I felt bad. Then I'm like, listen, I got two, but I have 3 kids and I have parents. If one of them wants some, and I felt bad thinking about this, but I'm like, I only got 2.
Yeah.
Which one am I going to give it to? And
Yeah.
and you talk to people who have given before and who have not given.
Yeah.
How much does that factor in? It goes, I got 2, I can give 1. There's a hierarchy here.
Yeah.
But you give it to a stranger.
I gave it to a stranger, but I also think, look, I don't have kids, and that might be like part of what made me feel like it was easier for me, and I'm very upfront about that. Not that all non-directed donors or altruistic donors are childless, but for me, it maybe made me feel a little more at ease about it. The reality is that if kidney disease doesn't run in your family, no one in your family is probably going to need a kidney. And the other reality is that the people who are most in need of donors are in communities and families that are the sickest. So the most people who need kidneys are the least likely to get them, because people who are healthy hoard their renal resources.
That's
and,
very well played.
They save it for themselves. They think, oh, what if someone I know needs it? And the other thing is, if you become a donor, there's a whole program you can sign up for where you can get like a voucher, where if someone in your family needed a kidney later, you could put them at the top of the list.
And so as you were going through this process, you're like, okay, you know what? I'll give a kidney. How did you research the whole process?
Too much. I researched too much. And part of that was that I had decided to make this film along the way, and so I needed to learn everything there was to know. I mean, I read like every book about the history of organ transplantation, and I talked to like a lot of other altruistic donors to find out what their experiences were. And they were pretty similar. You know, everyone I talked to had the same experience of me, of feeling like, what? This is kind of a no-brainer. Why are other people so confused by this? And they uniformly had like everyone that I spoke to had a pretty good experience. It's worth saying, though, that there are risks involved with this. It is a major surgery.
It's invasive.
They're
taking out an organ.
Yeah, like, so, you know, there is a chance you can have pretty bad, you know, repercussions. But the organ transplant system screens donors really well, because the last thing they want is a horrible catastrophe with a living donor.
Yeah.
That would be bad for them.
That would be bad for everyone.
Very bad.
Yes.
So they really do screen like really carefully.
But you know, when it comes to intention, so I'll share a story because they told us after the fact, they didn't name names.
Yeah.
But they said we had to screen people, and I'm like, and I was like, what? People matched? You're like, people matched, but we knew it wasn't the right person. We're like, why? Psychological screening, and they screen for intentions. And they said after the fact that we had a spidey sense that one of the donors was not doing it for altruistic reasons; they were doing it for their brand. They were doing it maybe because they could flex and say, see, I'm a donor.
Yeah.
And as you are a filmmaker,
Yeah.
back of your mind, oh, I'll give a kidney. This will be a good movie.
Yeah.
How'd you wrestle with that?
Well, I definitely signed up to be a donor and got all the way almost through the whole process before deciding to make the film. And then I worried that the transplant center would reject me because I was making the film.
Because they did the screening, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know, but I think they were convinced by my motives. It's an odd thing, though, because, like, do you think as the father of a daughter who needed a liver that you would have cared if that guy wanted to flex for his brand? Like, don't you think you just would have been happy to have the liver?
At that time, I was like, yo, I don't care about your intentions.
Right?
If that liver is good, put that liver in my daughter.
So this is part of what the film explores, is that we have these ideas about what makes an altruistic act and what disqualifies it. But I think some of those ideas are really like in need of questioning, because even let's say I was doing the whole thing was an idea for a film,
but I
still saved someone's life though.
Yeah.
Like so what? So even if I was doing it, I still think it would be an altruistic act. There's this complicated question of like, well, what's in it for you? Is there anything in it for you? And it's like, well, maybe on some level, I wanted to prove to myself that I'm a good person. Maybe on some level, I wanted to prove to myself that I'm altruistic. Does that make it not altruistic? That I had like some motive in mind? Or is it like I'm not allowed to ever think about that? It's a hard question.
And for us, you know, the ones who are desperate
Yeah.
and praying for our daughters and our loved ones, we're like, listen, if that kidney works, if that liver works,
Let her have her film.
let her have
Give her
it.
awards.
I don't care about, yeah, give her all the awards she wants. But, you know, have you met your recipient?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. No, and it's been now almost 3 years, so.
That's a profound decision. Why?
So I went into it thinking like, I wanted this to be anonymous because I had thought like, what would it be like to be a person in need of a kidney? It seems like it would be really hard. And then I thought, what would it be like to like have to thank somebody who had done this for me? And it seemed like it would be almost impossible. Like, you know this, how do you thank someone for a gift like that?
It's a life.
It's
You
incommensurable.
saved their life.
So what are you gonna do, give me a gift basket? I mean, like, it's just sort of felt so unequal that I worried that they would feel a sense of obligation or debt to me that maybe would be almost crushing. So I thought, okay, let's do it anonymously. And I told the transplant center that if the recipient wanted to meet me or wanted to like send a card or whatever, that I was happy to receive it, because I didn't want to assume what they were feeling. But I thought I would feel like that was a crushing debt. I don't know how I could repay it.
You know, I wish I had more time with you, but because I've gone through this before, but I do think it's one of those things we've been talking about. Why people should do the right thing, right? We should eat better, but people are like, yeah, but
It's hard to be virtuous.
yeah, but
The easiest thing is to be.
We're selfish, right?
Yeah.
But if it tastes good,
Yeah.
and I'm saving the planet, then I'll do it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I feel like the pitch here is, if you give a kidney or a liver, you live the rest of your life knowing, you know what? I don't know if I had the best life, but I know I did one thing.
Yeah.
And if you can flex on that, don't you think it's, I don't know, it's worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
The pitch, okay, I got 30 seconds. That's the world. If you can make a pitch to
Okay.
everyone watching to be a live
Oh my
donor,
gosh.
liver or kidney, make the pitch.
Okay, well, I do think, I'm looking now at the camera, so I do think that, you know, if you're healthy and you feel like you can withstand the stress and the fear of going through a major surgery, and it is a major surgery, it's worth considering. It's probably easier than you think it is, which doesn't mean it's not hard in many ways, but it's doable, it's possible, and you can save someone's life, actually.
Thank you for your donation. Thank you
Thank
for all the
you.
donors out there,
Thank
and I
you.
hope it inspires people to step up and be superheroes.
Oh, me too.
You don't want to miss the film Confessions of a Good Samaritan. It will be showing on 2 separate screens on March 15th at the Violet Crown Cinema at 12:30 p.m. and 1 p.m. And you can see our complete schedule of upcoming studio interviews on our website at sxsw.com/studio. These interviews are live streaming during the event on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/sxsw. I'm your host, Wajat Lee. Thanks for watching.